So if you've been following the news, you'll see a lot of people are talking about some magic artists that were detained by ICE and actually arrested for a brief amount of time as they were coming in to do work for Wizards of the Coast. I'm going to go to what I assume is probably the wokest take here on it, and then I'm going to share with you the actual truth as I've spoken to people who were there. Let me just put it that way. I can't be too specific, but as always, people contact me because they know that I will tell the truth, and I will do just that today. So the woke take, of course, is WOTC-affiliated artist Anna Steinbauer, Magali Villanueva, or whatever, and Titus Lunter detained by ICE in Seattle. You know a good article is when you have this many editor's notes up front. What follows is this story of three human beings trying to make their way across the world to work on a product that millions of people love very dearly. Can you feel the slant? Can you feel it? This is their lives, their livelihood. Please respect that, and respect that they need time to recover from this ordeal. Now, being detained, being put in a jail cell certainly sucks. I don't think I would want to be in their shoes. Did they suffer something, insanely traumatic? It's hard to say. But being from a different country, being detained inside this country, it had to suck. So while normally I would like to take the piss out of this hero narrative, certainly I'm sure they did not have any fun there, put it that way. WOTC is full of good people who just want to make fun games for millions of us to enjoy and push social justice, but whatever. They're also doing the best they can, from the designers to the legal team. What happened is not their fault. Oh, but it is. This is how you get exclusive access with Wizards of the Coast. You suck on those delicious salty balls. This is 100% Wizards of the Coast fault, and I will prove it in just a little bit. Do not take their silence for guilt. Do not take their lack of public statement as an admittance of fault. Right, they have you, people like you, to defend them. The only good article. The only thing Wizards of the Coast continues to, quote, be guilty of, perhaps to their detriment, perhaps not, is focusing on what primarily important to them, which in this case I've been told by several people within WOTC is the safety and well-being of them. Oh my God. The Shills are out in full force trying to cover for them. Essentially, on Saturday, the artists arrived at SeaTac in Seattle and were all detained for having expired visas, or technically, I think they actually put in here, the ESTA visa. An ESTA visa waiver issue that resulted in all three artists having their waivers revoked, quote, permanently. And if you're dumb, you need a lifetime ban in there. Meaning in order to travel to the United States in the future, they will need either a travel or a work visa. Okay, big fucking deal, right? Maybe the people employing them, bringing them over, would have taken care of the proper paperwork. But no, folks, this is not Wizards of the Coast fault. This is nobody's fault. Probably Donald Trump, if you read a lot of the people's hot takes about it. Titus even put a very fair statement out. I won't read the whole thing, but we were in violation of our ESTA visa waiver, whether we knew it or not. Now, personal responsibility is a thing, and if you're going to be traveling internationally, you do bear some responsibility to understand the laws of the country you're going to. I'm not going to villainize these artists, but they share some responsibility. You must know the laws. Okay? Ignorance is not a defense. As of today, we're not allowed to enter the U.S. without a full visa or a work visa. You probably didn't know that at this time. This would also mean we would be put on the next flight home, which was the next day. According to protocol, we would not be allowed to stay at the airport, and we had to be moved to another department, ICE. Because of regulations, after 6 hours of interviewing and waiting, we were handcuffed, taken through the airport to an ICE detention center 30 minutes outside of the airport. Here we were booked, checked into our jail cells. Sucks. As you can imagine, austere and not comfy. There were no beds, but we were given a blanket and some sanitation utensils. We would spend 11 hours here. We were fed, had access to water. To me, the experience was very traumatizing. In the morning, we were cuffed, put in a transport, escorted back to the airport. We would wait in uncertainty on whether our flight status. Some friendly personnel allowed us another phone call to let people know. After that, we were escorted by police to our gate for our flight, and our stuff would be returned upon our arrival. It has been an incredibly long, frustrating, scary weekend, and we are still trying to sort it all out. From what everybody says, the people that were dealing with them were just doing their jobs, and this is a huge oversight by Wizards of the Coast. Now, I'm going to have to do some shuffling around because I simply cannot show you the email that I was sent, but I can bounce back and forth here. I hope you'll know that my record of reporting accurately goes to this. So I received an email that said, I'm an associate of one of the artists who works for WOTC, and a ripple was made when some of our contacts were detained by ICE when they attempted to enter America for work purposes. I would also like to remain anonymous, as I also enjoy my privacy. I'm writing this email to you as not to expose them, as I prefer to remain anonymous given the cutthroat nature of the industry in recent years and sustained harassment by other members of the circle of the industry. I'm not surprised. It has come to our attention that WOTC may have been skimping on going through the procedures to get their international artists the required visas they need to legally work in the United States. Given WOTC's current political leanings, I thought this would be of interest to you given the scare it's given people that it's affected. Recently, artists for WOTC were denied entry into the United States before being deported. Let's go. I can probably do this. Okay. Showing the first tweet. One of the artists involved, whom my colleague knows, Titus Linter, posted a Twitter response about his detainment from ICE. Again, please don't point fingers. Very complicated situation. We are trying to figure out exactly what went wrong and why. Mostly we are tired, scared, glad, overwhelmed. Huge thanks. I'm glad that they made it home okay, right? I've noticed that in recent months, a lot of visas that were previously fine, artists and intellectuals, writers, travelers, now not valid. They're being treated like criminals. This is very concerning. Of course, I suspect there was no good or legal reason for those visas to be revoked. The USA is a fascist disgrace. This guy works for Wizards of the Coast, by the way, right? Basically, the three colleagues all separately arrived in the United States for work with WOTC, and they were all detained by ICE because there was something held to be wrong with their visas. The immigration staff said they were said to be courteous in trying to explain what went wrong. We have this. The officers were courteous and clear to play the best they could. We were jet-lagged and confused. Main thing is, us artists had the wrong idea of what we could do with the visa. So ultimately, it was just we were not allowed, and there is no alternative. Okay, this leads me to suspect that this was a failing by Wizards of the Coast to acquire the correct visa as an employer, and not Titus's fault, especially as Titus said he didn't want to point fingers. This is now required. Titus is now required to apply for a full visa every time he enters the United States. He has lost the benefit of the partial visa that covered tourism and some work purposes. So he has to get a work visa. Big deal, right? Wizards should have done this for them. I suspect WOTC was misleading their international artists into believing that they could use a visa waiver program, which allows citizens from limited countries to enter America without applying for a visa for 90 days or less for tourism reasons and to conduct very limited business activities. The visa waiver program might allow for things like the attendance of conventions, but even then, given the signals and commissions that might be taking place, I doubt that it's allowed when they're under WOTC's banner. The marketing push Titus was there for would have been covered by the visa waiver program, and without fully working visa, he is likely would have been detained for other reasons. Intending to work without a visa is a reason to detain someone, given that it's WOTC's screw up. I suspect that's the only reason ICE was so nice to them. Titus is being evasive about what went wrong. Hey, and I don't blame him. I'm sure that he would have been told full well that it's his employer's responsibility to sponsor him for the paperwork to gain in. Titus seems confused. What this means is, and I'm going to go back off this screen. This is important because these are insiders, and I want to protect them. The last statement. What this means is WOTC likely completely failed to initiate the application process to obtain the work visa for its international artists. In my opinion, idiotic hope that ICE and immigration wouldn't notice that WOTC's artists were in fact in America for work purposes and not there for tourism reasons. This has caused Titus and his colleagues to be detained and suffer distress because the company lied to them or didn't acquire adequate legal advice. While Titus does have some responsibility, he had faith. So that's the thing, right? It sounds like they understand, like, you do have some responsibility. I know you just have my word for it, but if you investigate for yourself, you'll likely come to a similar conclusion and be as disgusted as I am. People should be aware of this before they take any job with Wizards of the Coast and expose themselves to a potential detainment by ICE because WOTC couldn't be bothered to do the paperwork to guarantee safe passage into the country for their employees. Interesting. Well, this is what happens when you hire people who probably have the right ideology but not the right business experience. I think it's pretty disgusting that Wizards of the Coast has not apologized to these people. They're letting the overwhelming narrative of more Trump, more immigration ban take over. If you read anywhere on Reddit or anything like that, they aren't coming out to correct that this is clearly their fuck up. And these three artists at least spent basically the weekend in jail, scared, frightened, obviously. And I'm guessing they're not saying anything about it because they don't want to get sued, and they probably should be sued. I'm not privy to the conversation that they had with their artists. Maybe that stuff will come out. Maybe that stuff will appear in WOTC asked for this at gmail.com. Or maybe it'll be a part of some pending lawsuit. But certainly WOTC screwed the pooch here, and they're not owning up to it, which is pretty sad.